Hello YouTube! It is so close to being the end of 2014 and I wanted to make a video talking about my top 5 favorite books I read this year, but I also wanted to just take a moment to just sort of talk about the journey that this year has been, turning this channel more into sort of a bookish channel and just how great that's been for me. I've been making videos for almost 8 years, which is a really long time. Most people don't do anything for 8 years. 8 years is a really long time to do a thing, and I sort of started this year wanting to find a way to breathe some new life into this channel, and I was really struggling, and even though I still like making videos, I just really needed something new, and so making videos about books just really was that thing, and I've enjoyed it so much, and I am just so happy that you guys have liked what I've been doing. Thank you to my patrons who've been with me on Patreon. Thank you to those of you who have joined my book club. You guys are all wonderful. But now it's time for me to tell you my top 5 books of 2014. So I have read currently 38 books this year, which is pretty awesome for only really starting in July with Booktubeathon. I'm on my way to hitting 40 for the year. I have 2 more books that I have to finish before the end of the year. I'm confident I can, so we'll see how that goes. But the first book that I absolutely loved this year, I think these are in the order that I read them. The first one was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I loved this book. It was one that I had on my shelf for a really long time. I just thought it sounded cool, and then I just didn't read it for a long time. I don't know why, and I didn't really know what it was about. All I knew was that it had all these like found photographs in it, and it just ended up being so different than what I thought, but so cool. I don't even know how to describe it except for like an adventure novel, which was just awesome. So I loved this book. And I love that there are sequels because I didn't know that going into it, and I loved this book. The next book was, of course, We Were Liars. There was a lot of hype around this book, and I was really excited to read it for a long time, and when I finally read it, it did not let me down. It was heart-wrenching, and just like one of those things where your mind is just blown at the end when you figure out what was going on. And I loved how poetic it was, and how well written it was, and how unique it felt. And this one topped my list. Next was The Graveyard Book. It's really funny actually when you look at the graph of the books that I read on Goodreads, because if you do the Goodreads challenge, they show you all these cool analytics. Almost all of the books I read this year were published in the last like 2 years, because I don't know, when you're involved with BookTube you get caught up in all the new releases, and I found myself only really reading new releases, but this is the only one that was like back a little bit further than just like the last 2 years. So actually that's kind of one of my New Year's resolutions, one of my book goals for next year, is to read a couple books that are a little bit older. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do that. Anyway, I loved The Graveyard Book. It was another book that I didn't really know anything about. It was just one of those books that I had on my shelf forever because people said it was a must read, and I just fell in love with it. And honestly, I think part of the reason that I liked Miss Peregrine and The Graveyard Book so much is because they're so different than the books that I am used to reading. When I was growing up, I read mostly contemporary because I didn't really think that I liked anything outside of that, but I have just really had sort of like a book awakening, like a literary rebirth this year, and I'm really excited to explore all the different types of books that I'm finding myself into. Fantasy and adult fiction and all sorts of things like that. I'm just so pumped. So this was a great book for that. I mean, even though it's written for younger readers, it was just beautiful, and it read so much differently than the books I'm used to, and this, God, if you haven't read this book, this is just such a must-read for book lovers. Next was the first adult book that I read this year, I believe, which was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. I actually didn't know that this was like older characters because Rainbow Rowell mostly writes YA, and so I bought this book right when it came out, and I just fell in love with it. I loved reading about an older protagonist. I loved hearing about her life as a TV writer, and I just loved like sort of the fantastical elements of it, and I loved all the characters, and it was just such a realistic, I mean, aside from the fantastical elements, of course, but the characters and the relationships and the problems that they had were just so realistic. Like, you really, really could see these people, and you felt like you knew these people, and this book just has stuck with me. I just think about Georgie a lot. I think about Georgie and Neil, and it makes me think about my own relationships and my own life decisions and my own career and all of that. And so this book is just like wonderful and made me want to read so much more great adult fiction, and I want to find more books like this because it was just so good. And my most recent book that has made it onto my top 5 books of 2014 list is These Broken Stars. I just loved this book. I bought it after watching Little Book Owl talk about it. She said that she really liked it. This book is sort of like Titanic in space meets a survival novel. It's about these two people who are in this giant spaceship crash, and then they get stranded on this mysterious planet, and then they have to survive, and it's so good. It's so good, and I don't even know, I guess it's it's like sci-fi fantasy, but I loved the dialogue between the two main characters, and I loved what ended up being going on, and it was just so good. It was just enthralling. I couldn't put this book down, and so the sequel came out just a couple weeks ago, and so I pre-ordered it, and it's back there on my shelf, and I can't wait to read it. All of these books were really great, and I loved them, and I can't wait till 2015, where I will read lots more great books, and let me know down in the comments what your favorite books were that you read this year, whether they came out recently or not. I don't want any book recommendations because I have so many. In fact, I have a extreme book haul coming out very soon of all the things that I got for Christmas and my birthday, and it's embarrassing how many books I have. Anyway, I'm really excited about books. I'm really excited to read a lot more in 2015, and I'm really excited to find out what you guys liked reading this year. And that's it. I hope you guys have a really great New Year's. Thank you for sticking with me again on this book journey that we've been going on together, and I will see you in 2015.